I'm gonna let AI decide the next game I make. After finishing Dota Quest last week, I saw many videos on the controversial DeepSeek AI, so I wanted to see what it's capable of by instructing it to give a novice like me something to develop. And here's what happened. The first thing I did was I gave it a prompt. I made it detailed enough so it wouldn't try to make me program anything without experience. Second, I wanted to make sure that the game was completable in 12 hours or less. The last video, I made a game within 1 hour, and I want to make something short so that way I could get some experience. As soon as I pressed the enter button, it gave me a name, it gave me a story, and it gave me the type of game that I should aim to complete. And for the first time developing a game, I am given an outline that I could use to make the game successfully. Instead of the last video where I was just moving as fast as possible, this time I actually have a proper development cycle. So we are going to follow this outline as close as we possibly can. There are 4 phases that DeepSeek mentioned that I'm going to follow to a T. So I went off and started the planning phase. DeepSeek wanted me to keep things as simple as possible, making only 3 areas that will be used for the majority of the game: a village, a forest maze, and a shrine. The basic premise of the game is to be a puzzle game, not really focused too much on combat, and having some way to get some orbs that will give to the shrine, and that will end the game. I didn't focus so much on the details as much as I focused on exactly how I wanted the forest maze to look and where about the orbs would be to finish the game. Because DeepSeek decided that I should go for 3 elemental orbs, an earth, water, and fire area, I decided to split the map into 3 different biomes: a water zone, a fire zone, and a forest zone. For the water zone, your goal is to build a ship by getting some nails, some planks, and a hammer so that you can finish it out. For the fire maze, I decided to go for a traditional boulder trap, and then for the last one, a traditional forest maze, where you go around looking for levers and they'll open a door. Now that I had the plan, I spent the next 3 hours carefully making the map. The first hour, I got most of the maps done, really focusing on making a bare bones just so that we had it done. The second hour, I focused on the forest maze. So I went through and made the water, the fire area, and the forest maze. I made sure to make some animations for the fire and the smoke so that way the map felt a little bit more alive. And during it, I decided to make a separate little puzzle that's a sound puzzle. Basically, you go from the lowest tone to the highest tone, and that will remove a magical fire block that will allow you to get an axe that will allow you to chop logs for planks. Finally, it was time for the last hour. I used that hour to make as much visual events as possible and try to make it so that the village looked more alive and just make it fit the aesthetics of a dark village until the player is actually able to beat the game. I was pretty proud of how the maps came out. Once I reviewed it, I was like, man, these maps actually look pretty dang good. I was very excited to get to the eventing phase. I wanted to make it so there was an alternate way to beat the game in a way that's more satisfying. So I took to looking at the story a little bit more, and I looked at the way I was going to make the maze. In the eventing phase, I was going to make it so there's 3 enemies that are blocking each of the orbs. So to push it further and also train me on how to make alternate endings, I want to make it so there's a way to pacify them and make it so that they are actually the children of the elder, so that way you have something to go for, and make it less of a hack and slash game to get to the end of the game and actually have to use puzzles for it all. I worked with the shrine to make sure that there was some way to indicate when the game was done, and then I worked on the children to make sure that there was some way to both pacify them but also fight them. I also went and made the sound game for the axe so the player had a way to get the planks and finish up the ship. I was pretty happy with the progress so far, but I knew that there was a lot more to do to make this an actual functional game. Sure, we have a completed gameplay loop, so the next 2 hours consisted of the fine tuning and making the game make sense. So I started by making an intro and an outro that comes from the player arriving on a boat from a river in the town. I worked on a second ending so that if you saved each kid without killing or battling them, there would be a unique ending that would only be appearable from that stage. I also filled the village with details like a neighbor that really is in line with her HOA and is about to go ballistic on a manager if the old guy's grass is more than an eighth above the HOA recommendation. The last hour, I went for some minute fixes. I added some background music to each map, finished a graveyard scene where the player gets the best ending, added loads more to interact with, and also made the shrine a little more evil until you actually help it. Finally, I playtested the entire game. With all that said and done, that finishes the game. Making this game doubled my experience and gave me new experience and things I never made before. I only had 6 hours of experience with RPG Maker before this, but now I am starting to recognize some of the ability that I gained from making this game. The big things I gained was utilizing switches, variables, and design to create puzzles that could make future games more interactive and fun. By producing something tiny like Guardian's Trial, it's gonna make my future games a lot better. I hope you guys liked the video as much as I liked creating it. If you'd like to see more, be sure to give a like to this video, and be sure to go watch this other video of me making a game in 60 minutes. Every like that goes on this video will give me 1 extra minute to develop another game. I'm really looking forward to doing that one, and I hope to see you guys on the next video.